Look at that.
Are you coming?
Hi, everybody. Hi there, everyone. It's lovely to see you here. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is healthy and happy. Hi, Diane. Hi, Michelle. Hello. Hey, Ruth. Shalom. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I am very sorry to have changed the time, but I just didn't connect that we would have to park so far away with a shuttle system, which apparently has been here a long time. I just clearly didn't remember it. And so walked over. It was just fine. So I'm sorry. Hi, Sachin. So I'm sorry if they say bonjour, Catherine. Bonjour, hi, Barbara. So yeah, sorry if it's taken, if I messed up your days at all, but I am in one of the most iconic sites really on planet Earth. Oops. Yeah, I am worried there. It's just back. I do expect that our. All right. Oh, there we are. All right. Oh, if it's really. I was testing. I was testing my reception the whole way. There we are. So sorry if it's bouncing around, everyone. It is crazy busy, but I am indeed standing on an island here, Le Mont-St-Michel. Hi, Chauncey. It's lovely to have everyone here. Now, the tide comes in twice a day. Look at that. Comes in the speed of a galloping horse. I've intentionally stuck to the walls on the side, hoping that I wouldn't have reception issues. But it is so crazy busy. This is modern tourism now. Yeah, Chloe, I just kept talking. If I cut in and out, I'll keep talking because hopefully when the replay works. Hi, Natalie. Hey, Ginny. Lovely to have you here. Yeah, so these are all these flat lands. Now, St. Michael came here in 708 and blessed the rock. Therefore, the rock itself that this entire structure is built on has not changed, but they've built the alleys up and around it. People have been living here longer than that. But this is very, very typical, of course, of all these monastic settlements that people will have heard of in places like Ireland and the west of Scotland and so forth, where they would build, of course, these isolated homes. And this place, because twice a day it becomes an island, 1 kilometer or half a nautical mile from the coast, twice a day it becomes an island. And then when the tide would be out and successful, they would slam the doors shut. So look at the walls down here. Isn't this just incredible? People hanging out on the beach. So what I think I'm going to do, bonjour, hi everyone, sorry if I've missed you. Because I believe it could cut in and out, I'm not going to go inside much more. What I'm going to do is wander down and head out on the sand so you can have the iconic images. But let me just curve around here for a second and give you a sense of the Abbey up here. Hi, Sandra, nice to see you. Look at the Abbey up there. This almost feels like, of course, the Abbeys you see in Ireland and so forth, except you don't have any of the Viking towers. So we're right on the corner, the cusp between Normandy and Brittany. And of course, Brittany itself is the Celtic region of France. I always want to say a province. Um, and of course, there is only about 3% of the population speaks Breton now. But it's related to Cornish, as Cornish would have been, and then up to Welsh. Linguistically more different from Irish and Scottish. But look at the horses out there. So when the tide comes in, they say it comes in at the speed of a galloping horse. Isn't it just incredible, ladies and gentlemen? So I have been here, needless to say, several times in my life. I was living in Paris when I was 19, going to university here, and I was brought here by friends. Well, thank you, Natalie. I know I've been a little disconnected. I've been busy. So I am here with a family, and a family that you are all familiar with. Indeed, if you have very good eyes, just walking up right now, you see a guy in a ball cap, young man in a blue shirt, and the lady in the white walking up there is our friend Mary Beth. So let me, as I start to water down here, again, if my reception cuts out, everyone, I'll just keep talking. We'll have it for a replay. So you've all met Mary Beth on our virtual tours, but Mary Beth has been traveling with me for, I'd say, close to 10 years on tours now. And the reason we are here is because her uncle is buried in the American Cemetery at Omaha Beach. And 2 days ago, we had a ceremony with 3 generations of their family out there. So that was the whole reason for this. Her grandsons are one just turned 18 and the other one's 21. They're lovely young men, very polite young men, all from Texas. And she had said once they were adults, she was going to bring them here to see where their uncle was buried. So she does, she'll give you big hugs. She said hi to everyone, and she really wanted to come walking on the tour, but it's so crowded and it's so steep around here that it just kind of makes more sense for me to do this on my own. So they're wandering up. Look at this view out here. Now that peninsula, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the very top of it is Cherbourg, the port. Now, her uncle, we were finding out more about him. They had built up a family story that he had passed at the Battle of the Bulge, but had landed here, and that just didn't add up. And so we finally figured out, no, it was a hill. He was in the 90th Division, and I was able to find, believe it or not, with the help of the people from the cemetery, the marker of where the battle was, where he would have fallen. So that was quite a moving experience for them, as you can imagine. Had once upon a time landed here on the beaches. Sorry, that's right. I saw it bouncing around again, everyone. I was just saying my grandfather came over with the Canadian forces and landed on the beaches in Normandy as well. But he wasn't on D-Day. He was a few days later and went up into the Netherlands. So that's how we have so many connections. And you can see these old classic medieval ramparts. Do you know that these traditionally, not that one, sorry, but ones like this, is where if you were being attacked, you would pour hot oil or hot tar down on the attackers, who were often, of course, at that time, everyone, and hopefully it records everything as we make our way around. I keep waiting for the green to beep up, but you will see just how crazy busy this place is at the moment. And they were saying to me it's not even a busy feeling day. Those are the stairs up there to the right that I was just on. Look at the fabulous, and you can tell that it's Gothic because of the flying buttresses up there. Now over, I know I have lots of people from the UK on board at the moment. There is Mt-St-Michel over in Dorset too, or St. Michael's Mount, and I have been there as well. It's a smaller version, but still the same kind of concept. So what I thought I'd do is I figured I'm going to have better reception down on the sand. So I'm going to make my way through here, just give you a little taste of how crazy busy this is. There's the causeway, and when I was first traveling here and then guiding here even, I would park just the other side of the causeway. Now it's 3 kilometers away, but with the boys, we walked up, which was just great. It was a lovely thing to do. So hopefully everyone is still hearing me. I realize the signal's bouncing around, but it was telling me that I had 5G, so it was worth chancing it. And I know that Patrick Amp once did a tour here. By the way, he's been in contact with Mary Beth during this trip as well. Now, these are the lovely restaurants. And by the way, we did just, look at this. So the population at Mont-St-Michel now is 33. Now, I always said it was about 100, but apparently the population's been following. It still is a religious order here. Once I get down into the huge crowd, ladies and gentlemen, I will probably not talk for a minute just because you'll get a taste of what the crowds are like. And then I can get out onto the sand and see if I get washed away in the tides. If I get out in the sand. Sandra, I'm glad you're loving it. Hi, Denise. Hi to everyone who's here from all around the world. It's lovely to have you all here. I do realize, again, I had pulled in with I had more than a half hour for when I had this scheduled. And then suddenly there was such a huge lineup for the shuttles and everything. I thought, oh, better. So what we did is I came across here. Hey, salut, Eliam. So we came across here and I said, okay, we're all just kind of peckish. They're all very moderate eaters, but we immediately all had a crepe. So you're in Brittany when you have crepes and when you have cider, of course. Needless to say, being back in France, I'm enjoying the food enormously. And as I say, the family with me are just not particularly big eaters, but they are trying different things. And they did have escargot. They did have snails with me the other night. So that was fun for them to try it. But look at this, such classic medieval living. But can you imagine how isolated this would have been in, say, the 9th century, the 10th century, the 11th century? So many of you are probably aware of the rise of feudalism. I do highly recommend that everyone read the book, How the Irish Saved Civilization. Interesting book. But basically, of course, the Romans didn't get to Hibernia. And they, of course, built Hadrian's Wall, and then Constantine was converted in what is now York and went off and established Constantinople and the Christian Empire. And that was really the descent of the Roman Empire here in the West. And as the Roman Empire descended, then they started to have the Viking raids all down the coast. And we were visiting the Bayeux Tapestry yesterday. Of course, the whole history of William the Conqueror and all those Viking connections there. Now, just bear with me, everyone. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to wander out the main gate. Now, hopefully it doesn't cut out on me. I'm going to walk outside, but you're going to see just, first of all, look at the medieval architecture. Look how incredible it is. But also, you'll get a sense of the crowds. So then I'll go on outside and I'll be able to give you a little more history and context for the area. But really, it's the screenshots and the photos that are just so wonderful. Bouncing around. That's what I thought when I get near the big bricks. I'm bouncing around a lot. But look at this. If you're seeing this at the moment, everyone, pretty spectacular. Now we're in the land of Calvados as well. I am not taking part in the Calvados line. I am driving, and of course, speed limits on French roads are 130 kilometers an hour, so I'm being pretty careful and cautious. But I just want to come out here, and if you can imagine what a medieval gate would really look like, this is about the exact image of one right here. And so we could slam this gate shut. But how many times over the centuries? Well, for the 200-year period, they would have been. Sandra, you do feel like you're in a whole other world. And of course, monastic life was a very, very isolated and a very controlled life. Now, my very favorite claim about all these ancient monasteries, though, and I know you've heard me say it before, but it's still my favorite particular saying, is, these, for over 1400 years, the monks were celibate like their fathers before them. Sorry, I just say that to make myself laugh. But you do think that the monks would have had to come from other places, needless to say. So let me just try and give you a view of an actual true drawbridge right there. I'm trying not to put the camera right in people's faces, everyone. So obviously I'm trying to be respectful that way. But these are just literally where I was eating my crepe. I was chatting with the lovely, lovely, friendly lady who was cooking it. And she said, "Oh no, this is a quiet day." Like, oh my goodness me. So, hi Laura. It's nice. Yeah, wow, is right. This is the state of tourism around the world post-pandemic. Right? So all this demand. So these are where the monks would have come for flush toilets back 1,300 years ago, I think. But here, let's get outside, and then I can give you some of the great views, and I expect my reception will be a little bit stronger out there. We are still hanging out, which is lovely. But this is quite literally one of the most visited sites in the whole wide world. It is still claimed that Paris is the most visited large city in the world. And it is interesting, and I'm sorry that I've missed many of you for a few days. I did do a YouTube video from Honfleur the other day, and I was able to share that. But now I get to talk about some of the geology and stuff that I love as well, because we can talk about tidal bores. So as the tides come in and out, many of you will know the largest tides in the world are the Bay of Fundy, the second largest are Cook Inlet up by Anchorage, but these are massive tides through here, and so they fill in what look like rivers twice a day, of course. And this is how the monks used to drive around here historically. And it's, but in real terms, here's the causeway, and then there was the parking over on the far side. But as the tide starts to come in, now it is windy, which is why I tried to start inside the walls. And it's been windy every day we've been here. But is everyone ready now for just some fabulous views? Then we can talk a bit more about these early days, but have a look at this. There's the Norman flag there. Right? So we're still in Normandy, but look at this. Now, I am, as you know, not the entire place twice a day becomes an island, actually, as the tides come in and out. But isn't that just, it is just remarkable from a construction point of view. And up the side is the old transport system for construction. There's an archway up top here. And that was used, of course, in monasteries all over the world. It is stunning, isn't it? Used all over the world to draw things up and down. And it would have been a pulley system, of course, historically. Incidentally, our friends in South America, they always say the Incas never had the wheel. They had pulleys. Their hills were just too steep to have wheels. So let's wander out, and we're watching the tide coming a little bit. C'est magnifique. So I love Brittany. We'll be staying the next 2 nights in Saint-Malo. So I was in. I think I cut out when I was mentioning. I did a quick little 7-minute YouTube about Honfleur the other day, and the fact that that is where Samuel de Champlain left from, the first governor of New France or Quebec. And when I get over to Saint-Malo, that is where Jacques Cartier left to sail up the St. Lawrence. So there's deep connections with Turtle Island, with North America from this part of the world. Now, it's funny. Did you, Dan? What? That's great. I mean, it's it's so busy now. I mean, it's always busy. Let's say one of the most visited sites in the world, but why not, right? And so there you can see now that system that would have been used for drawing up and down. Now, drawing up, so for construction and so forth. Now, the actual rock comes up through the middle of it. Oh, the clouds are great. The whole rock comes up through the middle of the church, through the system there. But this was what you're looking at up top there has been worked on for centuries and centuries. And so the original chapel going back to the 700s, the 8th century, is right inside the whole complex. But the rock itself is built into the middle of it and was never kind of blasted down or flattened down because it was ostensibly blessed by St. Michael. It's absolutely fabulous construction. So it was ostensibly blessed that way, and therefore they didn't change anything. However, and if I could do it, I wouldn't be able to. Too many people. But they have this very flat system in the chapel on top, and it was made for Gregorian chant. So that means if you talked in this monotone voice and chanted, it would actually be the exact same tone throughout the whole thing. So and I'm not pretending to be an expert on any of that kind of architecture, but it is remarkable the kind of work that went on for centuries here. And if we come back to the story of feudalism, so as the hi Mark, the English one, Mark, is quite a lot smaller, still really spectacular, but quite a lot smaller. So this one, of course, was a closed community unto itself, but it would have been truly feudal, and in that sense, that all around here you would have had your peasants, your serfs, and of course they would be both fishing, collecting. You find mussels everywhere here. I didn't see any sheep today, but the lamb is apparently a very unique taste. I shouldn't say apparently. I have had it because it picks up a lot of salt because they're out where the tidal bore is. But then, when attacked, which was attacked so often, this is the deal of feudalism. You gave up all your freedom and all your money. It was pretty unfair, I think, on the masses. But then, when the attackers would come, and of course, back then, remember, the furthest anyone could travel in a day is how far you could either paddle or ride a horse. So then you'd come into the gates, and they close the gates, and you'd be locked in. Now, historically, thanks, Chloe. Thank you very much for the super thank you. I really appreciate that. Chloe just donated money through YouTube here, which I still don't particularly understand, but I know it's YouTube, so they're not going to steal it from me. But that's much appreciated. But they would close them. Now, historically, so many castles were actually sieged for long, long periods of time. So famine would often get you, or they would tunnel under to get in. Well, this one they can't tunnel under. Big, hard old rock here. And then, of course, all this water around. So this is one of the reasons it survived so long as a monastic settlement. Now, keep in mind, France until 1789 was an incredibly religious country, of course, tied deeply to its royal family, or royal families. I think we just came back, everyone. There we go. There. I think you're still here. You would be still here. I'll always lose some people, but there I am. Pretty fantastic to see. Yeah, no idea why I would have cut out there because not things I can do anything about. But that sort of fun. Hi, Shell. Nice to see you back. Thank you for sticking around with me, everyone. Have a look down here. Another fabulous angle of it up top there. But can you imagine life? I mean, it's pretty hard to imagine just how hierarchical it would have been, how controlled life would have been. That's a whole different world. But suddenly, little people playing on the beach. How do you not run around here? Little Finn Toomey was here once in his life, but he was about 2 years and 7 months old, maybe even less. So he doesn't have a lot of memories. And I didn't know how late I would be here, otherwise I would have made it late enough for him to get up and see this. So you're probably hearing the wind through my ears. That's why I was kind of avoiding coming to the side, but I think I probably get more reception here. But the construction, fortunately, this is a stable zone of France. Let me see. There should be a way to zoom. I could do, there you go. How's that for a zoom? Good question. Thanks for asking, Cindy. So that will be St. Michael up on the top. Oh yeah, geez, that's a good zoom. There we are. So let me just scan down here. Thanks for asking. Yeah. So there's the Abbey and there's life. So this street, which we got a little bit of a taste of right up along the front here, is of course extremely crowded. So we wandered in through that gate. L'omelette, moi j'en ai pas pris d'omelette, j'ai mangé une galette, comme une crêpe. So yeah, but the omelets are popular here. There's of course the red, white, blue, the French flag. Remember, France is a system and is a little well different because it's so focused on Paris, right? I mean, basically, France is the central government in Paris and then the mayors. And you don't have regional governments. Well, you know, that's hard on places like Brittany, which has, of course, its own language. It's lovely with the cousin. You know, I'll turn around in a second. But also down where they speak Basque or Occitan, Provincial, all the different Alsatian. You know, so France is so centralized. And it's not, I do like Paris, but I mean, it's so incredibly densely populated, right? It's a different world to itself. Here, let me turn this around. But when you get out here, I mean, it's a lovely time of year to be here. Thanks, Michelle. The canola is just coming out. We're a little bit early for that. There are poppies springing up everywhere. And keep in mind, of course, what are we, the third today, I think? Yeah, so we're the third today. So, of course, we're just a few days away from the events up in Normandy. And I really wish that I had given you all a virtual tour when I was out on the beaches. But honestly, part of it was just time. And part of it was the fact that I've just found my reception bouncing all around. So I don't know if it's just a function of roaming or whatever, but I did do quite a windy, noisy TikTok yesterday from the beaches in Mont. That's of course where Gold Beach was. There were 5 landing beaches, so we're just the other side from where they landed, of course, at on the 6th of June, 1944, and it was the other side of that peninsula, which is out there in the distance. So obviously Utah Beach was the most tragic one because it was more of a cliff than Omaha. So if we go from west to east, the middle one was Gold, and that's where they were setting up, building the port at Arromanches. And then on to Juno Beach, the Canadian beach. Good question, Mark. And then to Sword Beach. So did they ever get stranded? Absolutely. In fact, historically, I remember coming here years ago, and they give you a warning. I thought they even had an alarm that goes off when the tide is coming back in. So people have gotten stranded. People have even drowned out here historically. But of course, that's also, you know, they say the old story is that the tide comes in at the speed of a galloping horse. Now the tide is way, way out, and I still see people out. In fact, here's some people's shoes just hanging out here for fun as well, which is kind of cool. There are warnings, although you know, today, Sadyam, I walked the whole causeway. These are the shuttle buses that go to the new parking. Carla, it is incredible. And I didn't see any signs. So I didn't really go to the visitor center, but I am a little bit interested by that. Pretty amazing out through here. Now, it's a little bit hilly, but Normandy and Brittany are kind of rolling hills. A lot of, you know, very, very lush and green, good food production. Now, I did mention briefly at the beginning, but I was cutting it out. So yesterday we visited the Bayou Tapestry. So the town of Bayou is right near the beaches, of course. It was the largest, well, Cannes is the main city, but here, I'll turn around and give you some better views from back here. So look at that. We can just about, wouldn't that be a perfect kind of placemat for any of my artists on board? This would be a lovely one to try and paint. So I do know we are having lots of bouncing reception. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. But yes, there are hotels here. So I made the decision with this group, though, that we would come and spend the day here. We're carrying on to Saint-Michel. We actually have a hotel that backs onto the beach, so it's pretty nice. And then tomorrow we're just going to walk in Saint-Michel. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you. So that's the plan for tomorrow, which is just lovely. Thank you, Sandra. And then I have to drive all the way back to Paris, which would be about a 5-hour drive. Now, one of the young men, unfortunately, in my group had a really, really bad cold when he arrived, so he didn't get a lot of Paris. So I'm going to try and cut through Versailles on the way back in and take out. And then, yeah, everybody goes home on the 6th of June, and so do I, in fact. I actually fly through Frankfurt, and then there's a direct flight from Frankfurt to Calgary. But once I get traveling out here in this part of France, I keep wanting to keep going. because Brittany is all down this way to the west, and I just love Brittany, love the whole area. And you get out to the tiny communities on the far west, and that is where you can still hear the Breton language, which again is the closest thing to what it would have been like to hear Cornish. But of course, that language is only sort of being revived. But should we try and give you one more zoom up to Saint-Michel? Oh, is that right, Catherine? Lovely. Feel free to share it in our group. Here, I want to try and get you. I just see if we can get Saint-Michel up there in amongst the clouds. So, Ginny, I hope you're well. Everyone, Ginny sent me a message when I changed the time and asked if I was okay, but it was just, I just didn't think I'd get over on time. So, thanks everyone for letting me change the time on you. I'm sorry that it took longer, but isn't it neat to be here? Now, it would be lovely to have this on a quiet day, but what can we say? It's a beautiful, beautiful Saturday, and of course Normandy is busy as everything's leading up to the events. Another interesting thing, and it's just something to reflect upon, like you see people from all over. Oh, back again. I was just typing, everyone. I was just typing that I'd try and go live on YouTube, but if I don't need to, then I won't bother with that. So that's good news. So sorry, I know it's cutting out. Margaret, you visited here. Great. Well, what I'll do is maybe at some point when I'm home, I'll sit down and do a bit of a history talk in some of these really interesting areas. But I did want to talk a little bit more about the biotapestry because, of course, over across the water in the UK, that was all invaded in 1066. I know we all know that. The Battle of Hastings and the town called Battle, and of course, then that was the really the birth of modern England as we know it today. Um, and that's so very, very significant. But the battle was amazing because the boats were still that Viking style of boat, and so they would chop them down and they built them with the flat bottoms on them, and that's how they could bring them onto beaches just like this, land them on beaches or sail them up rivers, which is how they founded, of course, most of the cities in Ireland. Hence Dublin, Blackpool, in old Viking Danish. And so, yes, they sailed over, and of course, William the Conqueror, who they call Guillaume le Conquérant, over here, of course, invaded England. Now, it is often said that that was the last invasion. That's not really true because there was the Orange invasion as well, William of Orange, which is another story for another day. But in amongst all of that history, you had these monastic settlements all up and down, of course, Ireland, Scotland, all through the Pyrenees and so forth. But this might just be the most iconic one anywhere in the world. So it is a pretty spectacular sight to see. So I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you very much. No, it's such a pleasure to catch up with everyone. I know we haven't been communing as much as possible, but I tell you what, I will commit to put up a tour tomorrow in Saint-Malo because, I'm taking the group out walking, but I'm not really, and I'm going to try and make it a little later in the day locally, so maybe like my mom can make it on to the tour, that sort of thing. So I will put one up. Oh, that's interesting to me. Yeah, so we did, of course, we had this private event at the American cemetery, so that was very moving. And I went back today, and they were so respectful because I took them to the Canadian sites as well. But we went to 4 of the 5 beaches. We didn't go to Utah because we were out in Saint Mary's and then out where their uncle's regiment was fighting. But we went to Sword, of course, and to Juneau and Gold and Omaha. So but as they say, when you see the size of those cemeteries, and that's just a drop in the bucket. I will be in Saint-Malo tomorrow, Nathalie. So I'm staying there tonight for 2 nights. And so I'll put one up for sure sometime tomorrow, again, later in the day, European time. So you're welcome, Santa. Thank you. Just so, friends in the West. And of course, there's a clear Canadian connection there to Saint-Malo. I would hope my reception will be good. So yeah, look for a tour. Oh, thank you, Sarah. I've been dying to do this, and this is how lovely these people are. Of course, Mary Beth knows many of you, but she's been on live tours with me for years, and to meet her family, and they said, "Oh yeah, go enjoy your tour." So we had a quick break, but they're walking all the way to the top, and so I'm gonna say farewell, and then I'm gonna head up to the top. But you remember the rules. Now let's just curve around because this is as far as I've walked yet. So I want to try and give you some fine views of the actual whole island monastery here. Look at that. Isn't it just spectacular? I can't wait to see your photos, everyone. But I always, when I sign off from the tours, I always like to leave you, with something just to, keep tempted to keep coming back. And so I want to tell you about, so when I was 19 years old, that was the first time I came here, almost for sure. I don't think I came before that. And I actually, believe it or not, and I know it's hard to believe, but I had a French girlfriend. Well, we snuck